Hello, everybody. This is Debby Enoe from the Female Educators Roundtable with another episode on the challenges and triumph of online teaching with another guest of mine from around the world who is going to introduce herself to us and tell us what she teaches and the age group she teaches. Welcome, 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 Patricia. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm Patricia Arbona. I'm from Buenos Aires, Argentina. I'm a teacher trainer and I'm a speaker in the field of education in both Spanish and English. As an independent researcher, I'm exploring active learning and English as a lingua franca. You know that this fact is changing the way English should be taught. And I'm the founder of Ludodrama, a group of innovative teachers whose aim is to strengthen bonds and create synergies between teachers and schools in order to transform the art of teaching.
Thank you. Yes, teaching does need to be transformed. And we need to, as much as COVID had its negativity, COVID also has its pluses, because through COVID, it means that education is now on a transformational journey.
Yes.
Whereas before COVID, education was not on any transformational journey. Education was just there. But due to COVID, education is on a transformational journey. There is no way the education system can be the way it used to be before, because we've become very much innovative in terms of the skills we've taught ourselves. There's no way I would be going back in the classroom and teaching the same way I used to teach before a few months ago. Hell no, because I do feel that there's so many things that I've learned which I now need to be using with my students, because it is making teaching much more innovative and creative. And as educators, we need to be prepared to step out of our comfort zone. As much as it is uncomfortable, it is also necessary, because it's enables us to learn new skills. And I'm sure, Patricia, you'll be telling us how you've actually worked on the online platform and how you've actually seen teaching there on the online platform, and teaching was and how teaching would be.
Well, of course, as we were saying before, this crisis has changed everything. It has been a complete revolution. And we are not the same teachers we were before this crisis. And we have learned a lot. And we have done, I could summarize the 3 intense activities we have done since this crisis started. First of all, we've had to update our technology skills, because some teachers before the crisis knew a lot, but some others, me included, did not know too much. So overnight, I had to learn many things in a very short time. This is number 1, updating technology skills. Number 2, we have had to learn about distance learning. Before, we knew something, but it was not an activity that was performed every single class, or perhaps once or twice a week. It was not frequently done. So we needed information urgently. And number 3, and I think that this is the most important, we've had to adapt contents in order to be able to organize and to plan lessons for students who are on a screen and who are not physically present. So it was a complete revolution, because we didn't know what to do. At the beginning, it was a complete chaos. We didn't know what to do, because that was the only possibility of getting together. And besides, we were used to, or we are used to really, to working in the physical classroom. And all of a sudden, we had to face a new type of class in which everything was different. Everything changed all of a sudden. But gradually, we have been working very hard, and we have managed. Of course, that it is not the same as if we were physically present, but we have been able to find the necessary tools in order to try to make the children learn. The thing is that related to the contents, it was not only adapting the contents. We have had to select the contents very carefully in order to let the students go on learning when we go back to school, because some contents were discarded immediately because we are not having the same amount of time online. For example, children usually have or remain at school 4 or 5 hours, but here we are not having classes which last 4 or 5 hours. No, they are much shorter. So the type of activities, the content we use, of course, everything is reduced. So after this, we will have to reflect and consider the results, because we are working. We can see part of the results, because many children at this time are no longer interested in having this type of classes. They want to go to school, they want to see their friends, they want to have direct contact with the teacher, especially children. They need a teacher, they need their feedback. And they don't want to have classes at home, because sometimes the classes at home means no concentration. Probably there are 3 or 4 children in the class at home, and plus parents, and there is noise outside, and they cannot concentrate, and we cannot blame them. And something very important is that we cannot control the class, because it happens with children. If they are hungry, they leave the room and they go to the kitchen and get a cookie and they come back. If they want to go to the toilet, they go without permission, because it is their homes. You see? If they don't want to write, of course, I have seen cases, mind you. We are not supposed to give children any written activity when we are online, but it happens. But yes, I have seen, not very frequent, but there are cases, or to color something, to color a picture, for example. And children do not want to be online to draw a picture, because this is something that they can do in real life there at home on a table. What they want is activities that cause them interest, motivation. Well, for this, we need to be very creative to select the activities very carefully, and probably not to follow what the books we are using at school may indicate, something completely different. The problem that we are having here is that the children cannot move. This is what the problem I have with my drama classes. My students remain seated all the time, and we use the upper part of the body, because normally when I introduce my class, I give them some relaxation exercises to prepare them for learning. Well, they cannot move, they cannot stand up. Well, but we manage. The thing is that we have found the way to deliver classes in this way. That's why when we go back to school, I think that our classes will be greatly enriched with all this information and all the strategies that we have been using here online. And that's great, because all of a sudden we have had, for example, to change our routines. They are very necessary here, but they have nothing to do with the ones we usually have in the ordinary class. Why? Because at the beginning, we needed to know the way we would work, students and teacher. So we prepare a set because the students need to know the way they would have to work. And well, we have been working for some months. We have been in lockdown here in Argentina since March. We have been for 142 days exactly. So imagine, we are fed up with this. And that's why we want to go back to school. We want our freedom. We want to leave our homes and have a normal life. But anyway, these routines have been adapted to this situation. And I think that the students are responding to that in the same way we are trying to give them what we are preparing, because of course, you know that we are working a lot and we are devoting too much more time than we usually do in the ordinary classes. Because as everything is online, we cannot tell them, okay, open your book or let's watch a film. No, because the time is reduced too. So I think that all this information is great and will give light to those classes that were not working any longer. As you have said, it is a great push that education has received. Unfortunately, it has been this terrible disease. This is very sad. But anyway, at least I think that everything will be different, thank God.
Yep, definitely. Thank you for that. What, in terms of the online classroom, do you teach adults? Were you teaching adults? You say you do teachers training, right? So which means you're teaching adults.
See, adults, yes.
Okay, so what was it like in terms of you teaching them drama and getting them to move around? Did you find that?
Yeah, sorry, finish the question. I'm sorry for the interruption.
No, I'm just saying that, you were teaching them drama. So what was it like for them in terms of them moving around? Because we know drama is a very active subject.
Yes, it is movement.
So how did you cope with that? What did you do? You
well,
have
as
to
I
be
said,
very innovative.
Yes, well, to be a drama teacher, you need to be creative. Otherwise, you can't be. You can't teach drama. The idea is to get outside the comfort zone. Once you are outside that box, you start creating, you start thinking differently. Well, in these classes online, of course, movement is not possible. I was saying that the only possible movement was from the hip upwards. But the type of activities, as the course is on developing speaking skills, most of the activities are based on improvisation, because the students are separated. They are together on the screen. But for example, when I give a drama activity, what they do is to get together, they think about the situation that I give them, and then they organize themselves and they start speaking. Everything depends on the type of activity they are given. But anyway, they first get together and they think about it, because the type of work is cooperative. They may work individually, but normally it is enriching to work together, because learning is a social act. First, we need to learn with others. The idea that students can learn individually is a thought that belongs to the traditional way of learning, traditional methodology, that the students remain seated listening to the teacher. They do not have the opportunity to share the information they are being given at the moment. So this is not good. Scientifically proved, this is wrong. So drama then provides this possibility. They get together, they share experiences, they share information, they share strategies, and they create a support all together, and they are able to be ready for any activity. Gradually, they no longer need this support, and they become autonomous, they become independent. And one of our ultimate aims is to make them be independent, because this means that all the strategies that we are practicing in every day in our classes will be useful for their future life. So this is the aim. Once they become autonomous and independent, we can say, well, I have done my job. Well, in my classes then, no movement then is possible. Yes, we can at the beginning, as I said before, with these introductory activities for physical exercises and vocal workups for softening the muscles who are responsible for articulating sounds. But then most of the activities are related to improvisations. They have to improvise. For example, one of the activities is, okay, suppose that you are now a cockroach. What would be a reaction? You are a cockroach, I'm the owner of the house. I see you and I want to kill you. What would you tell me? Please don't kill me. Okay, give me reasons. And there is improvisation.
Okay.
The classes are always fun. We have lots of fun. It is amazing, this type of classes, because we never get bored. Because there is movement, there is action, and the children are always eager, expecting the next activity. And one of our aims is to keep them motivated. And Piaget says that one of our aims is to teach our students to love what they learn.
Yeah.
If they want them to learn what they learn, our first duty is to show our passion for teaching. If I remain seated and from my seat, I still giving my class, they get bored immediately because no action is present. So sometimes when they fail, I say, well, I think that you should study harder. Is it really their fault?
Yeah.
We should reflect on our teaching. Probably the strategies I'm using are not the right ones. Reflection needs metacognitive strategies.
Yeah.
And they should be taught not only to the students, but we should use them too when we use co-evaluation with our colleagues. The problem is that we do not meet together frequently because we have no time, we are busy. And I think that it's a must. This type of meetings, when we get together, we have the opportunity to share our experiences with different groups of students and learn, because the idea is to learn together, to grow together in order to improve our classes. As I said before, the audience is always the same. We have different types of students, but we are working for students to give them the opportunity to learn better, and in the future to be better citizens, because this is our final aim.
Yeah, it is. Thank you. It is so very true. A few weeks ago, I was talking with an educator offline. We were just, in conversation about the student, etc. Because I do, staff development. And something she said to me is, oh, my students are not engaging. I said to her, you need to stop. You need to reflect and ask yourself, what are you doing that your students are not engaging?
That's it.
When students are not engaging, it is not up to the student. Educators need to remember that. It is up to the educator to ensure that your students are engaging. If your students are not engaging, what is the problem? Is it what you're teaching going above their head? Is it too easy for them? Or the way by which you're teaching them? We cannot blame the student for non-engagement. It is our responsibility. But
yes,
educators seem to have it in their head that students are not engaging, so therefore it is the student's responsibility. No. It's our responsibility.
It's true.
In the same way, when we go to a professional staff development and the person who is actually taking the session, we might say, oh my goodness, this person is not engaging at all. That's the same way we need to reflect when we're in the classroom and ask ourselves, okay, our students are getting up, moving around. What's going on there? We need to, it's up to us. And I'm tired of educators are constantly blaming students for non-engagement, because it is not the student responsibility. It is our responsibility to find a way to engage our student, unless there is something psychologically wrong with that student, which means that we need to use a different strategy to deal with that student to enable them to engage. What are your thoughts on that, Patricia?
Well, it is true that we need to teach them metacognitive strategies, because they should be trained at school. Because then when they finish school, they forget about reflecting on their actions. As you said, there are many teachers who do not reflect on their own practices and blame their students. And besides, the system is also responsible, because students are punished when they do not pay attention. When they fail, they are punished. And the punishment is the mark, precisely. I don't like marks or grades, because they are cold. They say nothing, because I prefer to consider the process, the effort that the student is showing in improving. This is important, but a mark or a grade does not show that. So I think that it is unfair. And besides, grading classifies students, the ones that are weak and the ones that are good, or the ones that knows nothing. So I think that if we start practicing and using metacognitive strategies in the classroom, and make the students reflect on their own learning, because feedback is important. Feedback should be our inseparable friend. It is something that sometimes is forgotten. Children need feedback. It happens with children, for example. Sometimes they may say, we are in a 6-year-old grade. Say, Miss, they go to your desk and say, Miss, am I a good learner? Am I learning? Oh, yes, my darling, don't worry. What? Feedback is necessary. I have forgotten to insist on that. So that student has reminded me of that. So I'm not doing something well in my class. Feedback is necessary and they need it. So if I start making them reflect on their learning, they can discover their own weaknesses and strengths and work on those weaknesses in order to go on learning properly. But it is our responsibility to make them do that. If they don't, well, the teacher says that I'm doing well. No, it's not only the teacher, because the teacher is not the judge. Because you may think that I'm an excellent student, but I cheat all the time. So, reflection, I think that is crucial, because when we are using them, we become active observants of our actions, of our practices. So we need to tell them that they can do the same. And I think that in that way, they are able to improve their learning themselves. And this is autonomy. This means that they are able to learn by themselves, to check their own learning. And this is great, because they have been practicing this at school when they are young. So when they start college, they know what they have to do when they are dealing with their own learning.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And something you say in terms of grading, I totally agree in terms of non-grading, because I tend not to give students a grade, because what happens is when you grade the student, they don't look at your comment, they just automatically look straight at the grade they get, and then the comparison happens. That's the reason why when I actually check them in terms of my assessment, they would not have the grade on the paper. All they have on the paper is my comment from the essay, because I want you to read the comments. I want you to use the comment as a learning tool.
So the comment is more important than the grade itself.
Exactly.
The problem that they are, the problem is that they are influenced by the system and the society, because they are competitive. So the traditional school has taught them to be competitive, because immediately they receive a test, they look at their neighbor's paper to see the mark he has got. So this is competitiveness. What we need to teach them is cooperation, to work together and to construct knowledge together. Because as I said before, learning is something social, not something individual. So if we start working like that, this competitiveness disappears immediately, because I'm not interested in your mark. I want to know if you are really learning. So this is the idea.
Yeah, it is very true.
I always try to ignore the grades. But the thing is that the system is asking, because they want the result, the summative assessment, not the formative. I prefer the formative. Now with this new movement of transformation in education, teachers are trying to concentrate more on the process, because it's real. We need to follow the progress of the students, and the only way of doing this is through formative assessments. There we get a lot of information, and whenever we find something that is weak, we immediately start working on that. A mark says nothing, because probably the problem we're having at the moment, and it is happening here in Argentina, with contents. In general, teachers are always in a hurry to finish contents. And in this, it is like a race. In this hurry, they do not pay attention if their students are really learning. It happens at all levels. So it is a serious problem we are having. So the students are really in a very difficult situation, because they have to study even if they don't understand. because sometimes they are such in a hurry that repetition, okay, you may read it on your own. It's easy, they may say. And they study not because they want to learn. They learn because they want to pass.
Yeah, it is true.
And passing an examination is not learning. That's why it is so urgent to change this type of education, because the students are not learning, and they are saying that to us. They have been saying this for ages. We do not like the way we are learning, but we seem not to have heard that. Fortunately, we are a small group, but as I said before, every single day we are enlarging this group of innovative teachers, and we are trying to change, to work differently, because now that we are in this period of transformation, students have teachers who are still traditional, and teachers who are who introduce innovations. And for example, you know that they are always assessing us. They know what they can and cannot do with a particular teacher's class. And they may say, oh, I love Debbie's classes, you know, she's great. She's always giving us great activities. We are always on the move. But Pat's classes are boring, you know, always written activities. We are fed up with that. And writing, normally writing is used because we want to fix content in one way or another. And I think that content is not fixed through the written form. It is fixed when the student becomes part of the process of learning, when he can experiment the learning, when he has experiential learning, when he really finds an application to what he's learning. Sometimes the students ask you, and is this important? Is it going to be included in the test? So when you have this type of question, you may ask yourself, what am I doing? Oh my God, he's right. But we teach that all the same. So we should reflect on this very carefully.
So very true. How did you assess on the online platform?
Well, I take into consideration the progress. There is no special assessment for this adult group because it is a course, but normally we reflect on what we do in class, how they feel, what are their positive and negative points, if they feel satisfied, if they see the progress. So this is important because their feedback to themselves is a sort of reflection on the way they are doing. So probably at the end of the month or every 2 weeks, we can reflect on what they have been doing up to that time. And this is important. Sometimes we forget about reflecting, or because we are in a hurry, because we don't have time, and we go on and go on. I think that it is time that is not wasted. It is invested. But as usual, sometimes we are pressed for time because of the system, and we forget about this reflection. I think that reflection should be an element in the new normal we will have in the future. Reflection for the students, reflection for the teachers.
Yeah.
That's the best way.
I totally agree with you, because I think reflection is crucial, because I also feel that it determines how your lesson will move forward.
Of course, yes. And when we finish a class, normally we reflect on what we've done. And we may say, oh, this class was very boring. And it was not the students' fault. Probably the strategy or the selection of the activity was not the right one. Or, great, this class was really good. What were the strategies? Let me think. And then she realized, or I may realize, that these are the type of strategies I should choose in order to keep their attention, in order to keep them motivated. Because motivation is the most important part of the class. If I don't get that motivation, they won't be able to learn. And if there is no motivation, there is no learning. And besides, I need to create a special atmosphere. This is so very important. That's why I start with a sort of relaxation and preparation for my students, not only with adults, but also with children. And children love this type of, they call them physical activities. Because when you go to the gym, I always tell them this, when you go to the gym, you prepare your muscles. You do not start running immediately. You need some warm-up. This warm-up is to prepare your brain. Your brain should be ready for the process of learning. So it should be alert. Once your brain is alert, we are ready to start learning something. And of course, to start teaching, because we do the exercises together. And this special climate that we create, and we should be responsible for that, we should listen to our students very carefully. This is something that we seldom do because we are very busy with what we have to teach. And listening to students is very important. Why? Because sometimes they are giving information that is non-verbally. And their feedback is very important for us to improve our own teaching. If we are a good listener, this means that we are listening with our ears, but we are listening with our eyes at the same time. So we should use ears and eyes. And when we are a good listener, I am a good communicator. And when I am a good communicator, I am able to create an emotional bond that is crucial. This rapport that is created in order to have an atmosphere that is inviting the children to learn. So it's pure magic. Another precious moment is when we have the aha ones, the aha moments, when the children comprehend, when they understand. I think that is one of the best parts of the lesson, independent of the age, because we can have students at college and they say, it's like that. Good. You see, so this means that they have understood, and well, we are successful. We have been able to teach them correctly. So these are moments that belongs to us only. Precious moments.
Yeah, it is very, very true. Especially when you've been teaching when you've been teaching the group for a little while and they don't understand, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, let me try another method. And when you try to say, oh miss, I've understood, and think, oh yes, you've got it. It's a really exciting moment for an educator.
Yes,
especially when you've been teaching the students, the same thing, you've tried different method and they're not getting it, you're just bugging your brains as to say, okay, what else could I use? Because you have used so many tools already from your toolbox, and you're thinking, one more try. And when they actually say, yes, miss, and the excitement on their faces.
Oh, it's great. It's great.
Exactly. That's a real fantastic moment for educator. Brilliant,
yes.
brilliant, brilliant.
Yes.
How do you have a community on the online platform? What did you do to achieve a community on the platform? I think I understand there's one aspect. Let's see if there are any more. Are there any other way you actually achieve a community? Your student group as a community. How did you maintain that and achieve that?
You mean when we are online?
Yes, when you're online, yes.
Well, I think that, we know each other very well because we have been working for years. So we know each other and it's easy. But in case I start a new group, I think that I am responsible, as I said before, of creating a pleasant atmosphere. If, for example, if I say, okay, these are the regulations for this year, you will have to do this and that and those and this and that. No, if I start like this, I'm already separating the teacher from the students. Well, the pleasant atmosphere is my responsibility. And when the students feel that they are part of this atmosphere, they feel more confident. And why is this so important? Because in a classroom, mistakes are committed, and they should not be treated like punishment. This is one of the rules of traditional school. They are treated as punishment. It is not good if you commit a mistake. But mistakes are part of the process. They are always welcome. And mistakes should be worked with the whole class. For example, I am a student and I may have a problem with one of the exercises, or probably I'm not understanding what the teacher explained to me or to us, to the whole group the other day. Well, it's not a question of talking to her individually. No, the teacher should say, okay, let's treat this mistake in front of the class so that everybody will have the chance to see this mistake, and the students the opportunity to give their own opinions. Because probably that mistake can become a good piece of learning with the information or the strategies that other students are using. That's why it is so important to share learning. Sometimes students have strategies that belong to them. They have created them themselves, and they share with their peers. Oh, I didn't know it was like this. Yes, this method is great. You can learn this that way. Well, in this way, everybody is growing, is learning, and the learning is improving. Another important characteristic of the class is that it should be a laboratory all the time, where all the children and students, all levels, are experimenting with knowledge. So there is a lot of trial and error. And besides, another important component of this class, which is full of noise, but is busy noise because they are working. It's a nice noise. It is not noise that they are making because they are not interested. No, they are creating, they are thinking. And they work, mistakes appear, which are part of the process, and they are able to solve the problems themselves, so that the teacher is the last resort. So when you have, so our aim is to have this type of classes, of course, but when they are near what we aim to, well, we should feel very happy about this, because the students are the first to recognize the type of learning they are having, and we are responsible for that. And we should remember that they are always assessing us. And sometimes they hate the subject. I hate history. I hate English. But are they really hating English or hating history? No, probably they are hating the teacher. I mean, not the teacher, the processes the teacher is using.
Exactly.
Is the teachers are using. That's
exactly.
why the subject is not interesting to them.
It is very true, because it means that the subject is not coming alive to them. Because the teacher is not finding a way to deliver the lesson, which makes it innovative, so they could actually see the excitement in the lesson. And as you rightly say, thank you, Patricia, it is so much up to the educator. Some of them don't seem to realize that what a student gets from your lesson, it is entirely up to you how you deliver your lesson. We cannot be going around blaming students for non-engagement. It is our responsibility to engage the student, as I said, unless the student have something psychologically wrong with them, so which means you need to take another approach. But we need to constantly be reflecting while we are teaching and checking in whether or not these students are actually connected. And I'm afraid we had to do that even more so on the online platform, because as you rightly say, on the online platform, there's no engagement, because we just have the students on a screen. So we need to be finding a way to check in to see how much are they connecting with what we're saying. Is there another way of we actually doing it to enable them to connect?
Yes, it's true.
And it's a challenge.
Of course, this type of classes is a constant challenge. We are creating all the time. It's a must. Well, one of the characteristics of an effective teacher is to be creative. Now more than ever, because if we are not creative, we won't be able to give the classes properly. Something very interesting is to introduce an element of surprise in the classroom. For example, I may leave a sign on the door, or just a word on the board, or a letter on the desk before the class starts. So during the break, the students are trying to know what is the surprise. So their curiosity is awakened. So they are waiting for the teacher to enter the room and to reveal the secret. And this may be a very good trigger to start the class. It may be part of the content, but curiosity is already present in the classroom. So once children are curious by nature,
Yeah.
And once curiosity is present in the classroom, motivation is there too. So we cannot start a class saying, okay, sit down, close your books and pay attention to me. Be careful. If you don't pay attention, you're going to have a test tomorrow instead of next week. No, it's not like that, because you already block them. You see?
Yeah.
Sometimes teachers cannot have good control of the class. And punishment, then, if you behave badly, you will get a bad mark. If you don't bring your homework, you will get a bad mark. And it is not like that. We are still very structured and closely related to a methodology that belongs to the past. That's why the heads of the school should meet their staff very frequently to see if they are doing the job their job correctly. Because sometimes we listen to teachers shouting in their rooms because they cannot have control of the class. But why it is impossible for them to keep the control of the class? Because what the strategies they are using are not the right ones.
Yeah.
We need to get together. We need to reflect again. Reflection is present again. And okay, Debbie, what are you doing that whenever I see your class, they are busy working or doing activities? So we need to share, because sometimes I may think very hard, but I cannot find the right strategy. So I need my colleagues' help. This teaching is a work in which we should share information because we are working for our students. I think that in any profession, we need to be together. We cannot work individually.
Yeah, it is very true. We need to share good practice, because there's so many good practices around, especially during this COVID time. There's so many good practices around.
Of course.
Because you see, we find that that's what's formed through trial and errors, and we need to start sharing it, because there's no point in keeping it to yourself when you have another colleague who is struggling to keep this class engaged. We need to share it. It is very, very important.
No, of course, it's the only way.
Very, very important.
The only way of improving and being better, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So did you have, so your students were all adults, so therefore there were no issue in terms of teacher-student relationship, teacher-parents relationship?
Well, yes, but the problem is that school and families and school should be together. A school cannot work without the family. The family should support the school. The parents should be involved in what the students are doing there. It's not something that, okay, go to school and we forget. No, I'm busy, I cannot attend that meeting. No, you should be involved to see how the students are doing. If there is a meeting, I know that you are busy, but trying to find the time, because although there may be no behavior problems, but because we want you to know what we are doing with your child. So it is important, the involvement of parents at school. And besides, of course, the teacher will be always connected with the family, because she needs to document the student's progress, and then this information should be given to the parents. The problem is that parents attended traditional schools. So the only important thing is the grade or the mark. So they go to school and complain why he failed, why the mark was so low, and they never asked about the evolution or the progress of the learning.
They need
to know about that.
Very true.
So I think that if parents and teachers, again, reflect on their children's process of learning and everything that is related, it's not just learning, everything, the integral education of the child, I think that besides establishing a good relationship between family and school, we will establish a good relationship between teachers and parents. Teachers are necessary and parents are necessary too. That's why they need to work together. And the reflections should be on both sides. It would be great if we could have parent conferences in which they would have the word to tell teachers how they see the progress of their children.
Yeah.
It would be easier for us.
Yeah. It is. Thank you. It is so very true. I personally believe in terms of the teacher-parents relationship, it is so important, and I think even more so on the online platform, because we rely on the parents to support the children, right?
Oh, of course.
You know, it's like today I was in one of the groups, and a parents wrote in, we have been teaching, we have been homeschooling our child, so therefore, in terms of payment, we should be paid. So then I had to write something on, because parents are under, and society are under, this misconception that parents were homeschooling the children. They were not homeschooling the children. They were supporting the children. If you're homeschooling, you need to devise your own lesson plan to make sure it fits in with the curriculum. You are having work that was sent to you by teachers who already go through the curriculum and see how the lesson fit in with the curriculum. And all I'm saying to you, to support your child, because the educators already done the work to check that my history lesson or my sociology lesson meets or in line with the curriculum as I've been given. And then I would then send it home with the parents and say, okay, can you let little Johnny read this text? I had to find it. You didn't have to find it as a parent. Homeschooling is you finding the resources and you finding a way to get the resource and make sure it connects. Not when educators are sending you the resources. That's not homeschooling. So people are under this misconception that because they supported the child through the education system, through this COVID situation, they seem to think that they were homeschooling the children. And that's wrong. We need to dispel this myth. Because
no, I think that homeschooling is different. It has nothing to do with this. It's different. Yes. The thing is that there has been an educational shift, and it was a complete revolution in our homes, because all of a sudden we had to create a special classroom for the children.
Yeah.
And this was rather difficult for us, because sometimes there was not a special room for the children to create this classroom. They have become monitors, and they supervise the work. For example, they need to sit together when they are doing homework.
Yeah.
And besides, it has been a complete revolution, because the routines had to be reset. For example, fixed times for eating meals, for doing homework, for getting up, for going to bed. That's why it was a complete revolution. And parents now, they were not so responsible for their learning before.
Exactly.
Now they are, because learning is at home. And they complain because they say, I know nothing about this. Teachers are responsible for that. Well, but I think that we should support each other, because we are in a difficult situation. It is not our decision to have a classroom in their homes. So if we help each other, probably the situation won't be so harmful, because it is really harmful.
Yeah, it is very, very true. You know, as you said, they were monitoring and they were supporting. That's what they were doing, monitoring the work which they were sent home, and they were supporting the children. That's very, very true. Very, very true.
And besides, it's very difficult for children to do this, because they feel that they cannot go outdoors to play with the ball or ride their bicycles. They need grass, they need fresh air, they need sun, and they cannot do it now. Well, and then having classes at home, and they only can see their peers on the screen. They have emotional problems.
Of course.
They are affected emotionally. We are affected emotionally, physically, and mentally. But the thing is that normally we pay little attention to the emotional problems children are having at the moment. They cannot see their teachers, they cannot see their peers, they cannot go to school, because it is a social gathering. When they go to school, the school for them is a social gathering. They cannot celebrate birthdays. So the emotional problems are really very serious. But normally governments pay attention to adults and forget about children.
It is very true. And I think that's where they're going to actually find that things are falling apart. Because you're so true. The governments, and it's all government, they're so concentrating on the adults, they're failing to realize that the impact this pandemic will have on the psychological and emotional well-being of the children.
Of course.
And it's going to have a major effect. One of the things I actually thought about in terms of some children would be feeling rejected because when they're actually going to school and the teachers are saying, sorry, I cannot, engage with you, I cannot cuddle you because you're upset, this child is going to feel rejected. So in terms of, and that also has an impact on relationship, rejection does. So in terms of, when we look at Piaget and we look at Bowlby, all these people, educators really need to start looking at how these theories, how the theories would really come into effect now. And we need to have a look at that because it will.
Yes, it's true. So I think that it is very difficult for them. It is difficult for us, but I think that we should pay attention. We should pay more attention to them because we have been in lockdown for so many months already that at least here in Argentina, little children especially, are not enjoying classes very much any longer because it is always the same. Although they may be creative, but they are separated from the teacher so that no feedback, no contact. Children need to kiss the teacher, need to hug the teacher, her teacher or his teacher. And that is missing. And that love is very important and is not present at the moment. Also the relationship with their peers. The atmosphere of the classroom has not been present since March. The atmosphere of the school, the time spent during breaks, when they chat, when they play, that is not present. So that's why they are emotionally affected. And I don't know the way they will feel when they go back to school, because the routines will have to be reset, and the aims and the goals. I don't know. So there is a lot of uncertainty, and this anxiety is breeding. This uncertainty is breeding anxiety because we become anxious. So nobody knows what will happen when we start school again.
Yeah, it is very true.
We don't know. But anyway, I think that from the start, we are going to be completely different, but the children will be different too. I don't know. Of course. The students in general will be different.
Yeah.
And probably they will have the possibility, especially those who are at college or who are in higher education, will be able to express their rights. Sometimes they feel that they have too many obligations and very few rights.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a time for a change. I think that they should have a voice. They should be given voice so as to really express what they feel, the way they are learning. Certain regulations that are not satisfactory for them. If we are doing, all we are doing is for them. So the student's voice should be present. I think that is also very important. Listen to that.
It is so very, very true, because something you say which is so interesting, because young children especially, physical contact is so important for their development. They need the physical contact of the teacher, especially when they're 4-year-olds, because when the parents drop them off in the school in the morning or whatever time they're able to go to school, and then they're so uncertain, seeing this teacher and this classroom, which is so very different from what they actually probably had in their minds. And of course, some of them will be very unsettled. And what would it be like with this teacher saying, well, sorry, I can't really hug you because I have to promote physical distance. It increases the trauma, both on the child and on the educator, because I cannot see me as an educator and this child coming knowing that this child is crying because the child is, the parents is leaving them. And I just have to stand and just look at the child crying. Sorry, I cannot do it. I cannot do it.
Of course.
COVID or not COVID, I cannot do it.
Yes, but imagine that this crisis has turned down our lives our jobs, and our homes. So too many things together. That's why we are affected emotionally, physically, and mentally. So, well, and this will take time. This won't finish tomorrow. It will take a long time to come to a new normal, because who knows what will happen in summer. But in this special situation, we should work cooperatively more than ever, because if we don't support each other, I think that this crisis will long for much more time.
Yeah, it would escalate.
Nobody knows what will happen in the future. It's difficult. But nobody can deny that we are doing our best, and that parents, children, and students are working together. And union makes strength.
Yes,
so
it is very
something
true.
that, yes, we are trying very hard.
Yeah.
And we are trying to do our best to our students.
Yeah, it is very true.
And something very important is that we are committing mistakes, and we should recognize those mistakes we are committing, but they are good because they are helping us to improve our teaching.
Yeah, to develop, exactly.
Mistakes are expected.
Yeah, and mistakes are fine because we're learning from it. Right, what 3 tips could you give? What 3 tips would you give in relationship to the online platform?
Well, I think that it is a way to be creative, as we were saying. It has been, and it is an opportunity to be creative. I think that one of the requirements for an effective teacher is to be creative, to change every single class. And when you are a creative teacher, you have the possibility to make the students motivated. And without motivation, there is no engagement. If there is no engagement, the students lose interest, and there are behavior issues. This occurs, we are saying children, but this happens at any level, even students at college. When they are not receiving what they expect from a particular teacher, they lose interest. But what happens? They need to study because they want to graduate. So they study. It happens the same. They study because they want to pass an examination, not because they are really learning. And this is sad, because it is a course of study they have selected, and they have not been told by their parents to be there. So they have to go on studying after they graduate to get information that was not given while they were studying. So creativity is one. Then to be resourceful. Well, we have been really very, very resourceful, because we have found the way to create and to create material out of the blue. And in many cases, we have been successful, because the students, well, in a way, they are motivated, and I think that they have learned. The reflection will be afterwards, will take place afterwards, because now we are in the process of giving this type of classes. The problem is that we cannot control their learning, because they are on a screen. We cannot evaluate if they are really, it is just through the screen, because there is no possibility. And sometimes if there is a possibility, we are not always sure about what we are doing. Because I know that, for example, here in Argentina, at college, students have had exams, final examinations. But yes, in England, is this possible?
We haven't had exams. The students have not had exams at all.
No. Well, here, yes. For example, the teacher training college, students have had these final examinations online. But it's difficult, really. And the environment is difficult, and the students may get blocked because they get nervous, they depend on the connection. There are many external causes that may affect the result of the examination. I'm against this type, because I prefer to wait till everything is better organized, and to have a physical contact, because the physical even examination, the physical contact is crucial, because I need to create a special atmosphere also when the students are having an examination.
Yeah.
So another important element is to remind them the importance of the potential they bring to class.
So important, yeah.
Yes. I think that if we have the possibility of using each potential of each student's, classes would be magic, full of magic. Why? Because every class and every student is different. Each class is unique and is made up of students who have personal characteristics which define the group. That's why when we normally prepare a test for class A, B, and C, and then the results are different, and I say, oh my God, in class A, all the students got good marks, but in B and C, the results were not so good. Well, I think that they should study harder. Is it that really? I think that the strategies cannot be the same because they are different groups with different needs and different styles of learning. So if we take into consideration their potential, the tests or the activities or the teaching procedures should be different. I should organize them and prepare them according to potentials I have in that particular classroom. For example, drama offers this possibility. We use multiple intelligences, that is to say, the potentials the students bring to class. For example, if you are good at singing, all right, you will try to introduce a particular part of the content in a song. If you are good at dancing, okay, use your body to transmit a particular content. So if every student uses his or her own potential, the students will be able to see learning from different perspectives. Because learning is not the same in the whole classroom.
Exactly.
The strategies and the processes depend on the student. So when the students are able to see all these differences, this is also enriching because they can get all the strategies from the different students and to use them for their own process. So as you see, working together is the best ways of learning. That's why another important component of this is the cooperative work. Teaching students to work cooperatively, not individually. And this cooperation should be present among teachers.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I totally agree with you there. Thank you. What is your opinion on schools reopening by the summer? Or some of them are opening in September. And we've had a lot of issues regarding people are saying that educators are lazy, they're coward, who they think they are, they're uncaring, they're not interested in the job, they get so much money and they don't want to do the job. What are your thoughts on all of this, hearing how much educators are being hammered by society and by the press?
Well, I think that they know nothing about us, as usual, because we are not recognized in society. So criticizing, even at this time of crisis, seems to be natural. It's a pity that they have these thoughts about us. But anyway, we have been working very hard. And I don't think that we, in my country, we could start in September. It would be our spring. I don't think so, because all the instructions that should be given to students, I don't think they will function, especially with children. For example, children who attend kindergarten. I tell them, okay, mind you, do not hurt anybody, no kisses, don't touch this, use your mask. Do you think that they will be able to keep on thinking about that while they are at school? It's impossible. I don't think that those children will be able to come back to school. With children who are 6, 7, and 8, I think that the problem is reduced because they can understand much better. But I don't think they will remember all the regulations, all the instructions, the protocol that they should follow. It's impossible. And besides the distance, have we got rooms big enough to separate the students? In Argentina, not all the schools are big enough to have big rooms to have separate tables. So there are many problems that go beyond the regulations restricted to the disease. So it's very difficult to start school. It's very difficult. Well, how can we teach the students that the way, for example, they are going to deliver homework, the way they are going to do the activities, they cannot get together, do not ask, do not lend your pencil, for example, to your neighbor. It is dangerous. Oh my God, so many things. Huh? Do not share your sandwich. Do not share your sandwich during your break. It's difficult. That's why there is a lot of uncertainty. We don't know what we are going to do really. Only time will tell.
Yeah, it is so very true. It is so very true. How could you say to a child that needs a ruler, you cannot take, you know, your friend's ruler? It's challenging. As you say, it's okay for children who are 6 years plus. For the 4-year-olds, as I said, who come to the school for the first time, and the child just missed the parents, whoever dropped them in, and the child stand there. So we've all had experience of that. The child stand in the doorway and is just screaming. You have to comfort that child, to reassure that child, it's okay. It's not going to be too long. But we are told that we cannot do that. So I don't understand why the powers that be feels that the children should be going to school at that age, at this time. Our job is so different from the normal job, the normal office job, because we teach children that the nose running, you always have to have a box of tissue on your desk.
Yes.
Because the nose is always running.
Yes, I think that it is a great interrogation mark. Let's see what will happen. I think that we will have to be there and see what we can do. But today, for us, it's really very, very difficult to start classes.
Yeah, it is.
It is difficult, and at the same time, it is dangerous because it will be impossible to make the children obey all the regulations. It is impossible. During the break, you won't be able to control all of them. If you have crowded classes, well, who knows? So that's why it is a matter of time, and only time will tell. Let's hope for the best. But
it is very true. It is very true. What do you think in terms of, at the whole, what do you think educators need as a whole? At this time, what do you think educators need? Give me one thing that you think educators need at this time.
A lot of energy.
Sorry?
Yes, energy. A lot of energy. Energy to be energetic and to be willing to deliver this type of classes. I don't like this type of classes because, of course, I use them, but I prefer physical classes because I know that I have a better contact. But I need a lot of energy, a lot of willingness, a lot of creativeness in order to be successful and to work together. I think that working together is crucial at this moment because we need to share what we are doing, our practices, our teaching, our procedures, our resources to work better, because this is a community. We are all doing the same at the moment. That way that we have the possibility of sharing this experience with teachers around the world. I'm really glad that I'm with you today because we are sharing different types of education. Although we have the same audience, we are doing the same from the point of view of innovation. But for example, the regulations in the schools, the way the students should follow certain routines may change a bit. But education is the same all around the world. And sharing this is precious because we are learning a lot. So I'm very glad you are doing this type of job in order to connect teachers from different parts of the world. At this moment, we need each other.
We do.
Yes, it's crucial.
Do.
It's crucial,
really
and it's a kind of support that, of course, we cannot even meet. We cannot even meet with colleagues here in my country. But this type of meetings that we are having at the moment around the world and with our colleagues in Argentina, let us work together and improve the learning of the students, because I think that without that, what are we doing? Our aim is their learning. Whenever we attend the course, because we want to know about neuroscience, for example, or about active learning, let's say, well, all the information that we get, it is like this. Once I receive it, it goes directly to my students. So I enrich myself in order to enrich my students. And then if I have the opportunity to share what I've learned in that course with my peers, much the better. Why? Because we are sharing the information, we belong to the same community, and we are going to teach in the same way. And in this way, everybody is improving.
It is so very, very true. Thank you so very much for that. It is so important that as educators, it's beautiful that you really remind us as educators, we need to be working cooperatively instead of competitively. Because the beautiful thing about it is we are serving the same audience. It doesn't matter whether or not it is Argentina, whether or not it's in the UK, it's in the US, our audience are the same. And in terms of engagement, we are having very much the same challenges. So it is so important that we exchange ideas, because it does help. And we should not sit as we being in isolation. We've got to sit as a community of educators. It's important.
I totally agree. I was in England, in Britain last year in September, and I had the opportunity, I visited several schools there because I wanted to know the way the teachers were teaching there. And I want to teach also to share my experience. And it was great how friendly they were. We had meetings and we talked about our practices. I was in Scotland and in England, and I visited several schools there. And well, all the teachers welcomed me, and they were eager to see the way we were working, and I was eager to see the way they were working. So we had great meetings, and I made lots of friends. And the most important thing is that we had the possibility of sharing what we were doing around the world, because we were dealing with children at the time. But I was able to observe classes and the type of material they were using. Of course, there were differences as regards, for example, the resourcing materials. I could see in their classroom. Sometimes the classrooms were much bigger. Sometimes the groups were reduced. Here, for example, in Argentina, the public schools have crowded classes, and it is rather difficult to work when you have 40 or 45 students together. In private schools, the number is smaller, but they are about 30. In many cases, in private schools, they are about, and it is difficult to work with 30 students. It is a private school. And when we say that, we try to give personal attention to students. When you have 30, it is quite difficult. Well, the experience was great, and I learned a lot. And all the teachers there were very, very friendly, what they had. So I had a great experience with your colleagues there.
You see, thank you. That's the importance of we actually exchanging good practice, because these online platforms have actually equipped us with a number of good practices, which I'm sure we're going to be taking back to the classroom. Is there anything you're going to be taking back to the classroom from the online platform?
Yes, the type of resources and the creativity I have developed during these classes. I think that these are the two elements. And besides, it has been difficult to create a warming atmosphere because we are separated. But in spite of that, we had a good time. We have had a good time. And when you have a good time, this means that you are engaged, the teacher and the students. So in spite of being separated, this atmosphere was created. Well, as we said before, it depends on the teacher. We can have classes online or physical classes, and if I remain seated at my desk, well, the same type of classes in both cases will be given, and there is no difference. So it depends on me. I cannot move around in this type of classes, but the students need to know that I'm full of beans, I'm energetic, that I'm ready to start the class willingly, and to push them to work together with me and to be an active member of the class, not to remain silent and be a passive recipient of information. I'm not interested in that. And I don't want to have this type of students when I go back to school. I prefer them moving, I prefer them talking, I prefer them asking questions. You know that normally when we are young, we start discovering the world through play. Play is the tool. And we use play and questions. Questions are the ones that open the world to us. But then when we start school, play disappears, and we are told to answer questions and to forget to ask questions. So answers become more important than questions. And knowledge is achieved through questions, not through answers. The traditional school is the one that prevails or puts emphasis, and these answers are mechanical. And when you give mechanical questions, you don't learn. You just studied something by heart that is forgotten in a few days. So the children are not learning. But the purpose of the traditional school was completely different from the one we have today. They were prepared just to work in factories. So it was a mechanical preparation. It is completely different from the one we need today.
Yeah, it is. It is.
But these are the components that should be kept when we go back to school.
Yeah, it is so very true. I totally agree with you on that, because I do feel that the online platform have made a lot of educators very creative and very innovative, and we need to carry that into the classroom, because we were not, we were creative but not so very creative, and in terms of he enabled us to be, to use differentiation in a very different way. Patricia, you're frozen on the screen. Hello? Patricia? Patricia? Well, I've actually, my educator have become frozen, and we've lost internet. As she had said to me at the start of the program, that sometimes it's difficult to have internet constantly, and that appears to have happened. Okay, so thank you, Patricia. I'll be talking to her after, because we've just lost contact. Thank you, everybody, for coming on the program. I would ask you to share, comment, and like. Tomorrow I'll be coming again with another educator from around the world. And these are some of the challenges that we experience while we have been online. The internet dropping, the internet is not connecting. These are some of the challenges because we're dealing with technology. Oh, she's back.
Hi, yes, she disappeared.
I was just saying to my audience, some of the challenges of the internet we were talking about before we start the program. Well, this is it, isn't it? Real life.
It happens. Yes, it's real life. Okay. Yes, it happens. We always have problems connections. Why not today?
Exactly, isn't it? Yes, I was just saying, thank you for coming on the program. Have you got anything else you want to say? Have you got one other thing you want to say before I just sum up?
Well, I don't know what to say, but what is important here is to keep on trying, to work harder, and we need to get together in order to go on constructing this transformation in education and think it is very important. And this disease has given us the opportunity to change radically too. I don't think that we should keep on waiting for a change. I think that more teachers should recognize that their way of teaching is no longer appropriate for this time, that we need to change. And I think that the authorities of the school should put emphasis on their staff so as to complete this process and start working with active methodologies. I think, well, they are the ones that are being introduced in those institutions who have decided to implement a new type of education. And they work really, because all I have told you today is based on my experience using active methodologies. Drama, play, for example, are active, using multiple intelligences indicate that they are all active resources that give central participation to the students. The most important thing is to make them move, to make them work, to make them realize that they are the most important part of the process. And everything we do is around them to help them become efficient learners, because all the strategies, all the information that they are receiving at the moment, while they are getting an integral education at school, will be kept for the future. All the strategies and all the procedures they are learning today will be used and improved, of course, when they become adults. This is our aim. And if they are achieved when they finish, when they graduate, and we can see that all the aims have been fulfilled, we can feel satisfied, because we have done our best. So we are teachers, we are social workers, because it's not just a question of educating and instructing them. It is also working with emotions, working with a person, with values, all the other elements that should be present for this integral education. It's not just sitting and studying. It's also being a good person. And we are responsible for that.
I totally agree with that. And we need to start looking in relationship to educators. We're not just impacting intellectual knowledge. We are, as I said yesterday, we wear various hats. And when we go back into the physical classroom, if we ever get back there, or when we actually even using the online platform, we will be using a lot of new skills that we used to use before, but not so much, i.e. like the therapy skill, the counseling skill, the psychology skill, all the skills we will be using. And that's something that have not been addressed. In the next few weeks, I think it's from Sunday, next Sunday, I'll be having a program whereby I'll be bringing on board a number of counselors and psychologists and CBT practitioners, so we can actually really talk about the impact this whole thing will have upon educators and children or students, which people are failing to realize or failing to address. And it is so crucial that we need to address it, because whether or not we want to accept it, this is what's going to happen. We have a number of traumatized children out there who would be then going back into the classroom, and we cannot be pushing educators to impart the intellectual process on these children, because they would be receptive to take it, but we don't know what's going on in their minds. So before we actually progress onto that, we need to unpack the psychological and emotional factor that these children have gone under, and we need to start looking at it. It has been a trauma impact situation. We are failing to do that.
Yes, it's very true what you're saying. Yes, it is more important the physical, the emotional part than the instructional part. First, they should settle emotionally. When we see that their emotions are in place, we can start speaking about
intellectual.
Any teacher.
It is so very true, because I have some parents out there who say, oh, well, you know, they're concerned about the intellectual aspect of the child. They're busy getting tutors to support the child. My question to the parents out there, have you actually sat down with your child and find out how this whole situation has impacted your child, instead of you forcing them onto the intellectual journey? They would only be doing that because they want to please the parents, not because that is exactly what they want to do now. We need to be so careful, because come 2021, we'll have an increased number of mental health or mental ill health children and young people. And we are going to be wondering what's happening. And you know what's going to happen? We're going to be taking them to the doctor. And what the doctor is going to be prescribing? Prozac.
Oh,
right?
My God, no, yes. What has
Right?
happened?
Or they'll be saying,
crisis.
Exactly. Or they're going to say, oh, your child have ADHD. Let's give medication. We need to start looking at what's going on with our children, instead of we actually so focus on this intellectual journey. That is the last thing as parents and educators we should be dealing with, because these children have come under traumas and we need to address it.
Of course.
It's interesting. That actually came up in the discussion yesterday after the program. I was talking to an educator, and that's we actually start discussing, because it's an issue which nobody's addressing. Everybody's so focused on this intellectual journey. You know, you guys do not see these children when they come to us. I'm an educator, as well as my background, psychology and CBT. And when the children come to us, they're traumatized children. So could you imagine now when they're coming to us after this pandemic? We've got trauma children. We need to start looking at that. We need to start talking to our children and listen to what they are not telling us. Listen to the silence. That is important, because there is where the issues are, in what they are not telling us. Yes. Anyway, I am not ranting and raving. I'm just heightening your awareness of your children, because nobody seems to be concerned about this traumatic impact this whole situation is having on the children. Could you imagine 4-year-old going back into school, and they're going to be saying to the parent, oh, Miss didn't even touch me today because she said she couldn't. Could you imagine the impact that is having on that 4-year-old? The child is feeling rejected. The child is feeling that they're not able to form relationship. And we are missing that point.
Yes, of course. Yes, it really, there is a lot of anxiety among children. They have been suffering from anxiety a lot. And besides, I think that we should start with emotions. The first very day we start, we need to talk about emotions, how they feel, how they feel prepared to start the class, what are their emotions like, talking all the time about emotions, their relationships, and instruction will be much later when emotions are in place. Yes, exactly. It's true, because they have undergone a very difficult situation. In silence, because remember that silence is meaningful.
In silence. That's what we need to be paying attention to. The children that have become very quiet and what they're not saying. That is so important. What the children are not telling us.
Yes, this is important. Okay. And they have been having problems, and we have not had the opportunity to go to a psychologist to get some help, because we have been in lockdown. So the situation is even worse, because we have not had any help in those cases. And all the children have had this sort of anxiety present in silence, or probably they have been able to expose that to their parents. They fight, they misbehave, so they have had their own reactions. So, and we need to pay attention to that. And probably when they go back to school, they will have the same reactions, because now they are after this crisis and they are in a new situation. They don't know if they will be able to cope with. That's
exactly. So parents, teachers, carers out there, you need to be observing the child, because whatever behavior they're demonstrating, and you know this is not the so-called normal behavior, you need to watch it. And when you take them to the doctor, be aware of the medical model. We need to be very much aware of that.
Of course, yes, no doubt. Crucial.
Yep. Thank you, everybody, for listening, coming on board. Please share, like, and comment. And please be aware of your little diamonds in front of you, what's happening to them, what they're not saying. That's what we need to pay attention to. And next week, I will be starting another program as well as this one, looking at the psychological and emotional aspect of children. And I'll be having counselors on board, I'll be having psychologists on board, etc. So we could actually talk about it with some educators who are in that area as well. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a fantastic evening, night, whatever time you have over there. Take care, have a blessed evening, and stay blessed. See you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.